This is a kind of Murdoch ploy, shifting the scum slightly, ever so slightly, to a kind of diversity kind of mode. And this is the piece on Marcus, the footballer, starting the project to get kids reading. And only a small item on the pandemic. And it's quoting Deputy Chief Medical Officer Jonathan Van Dam as saying, we are starting to feel in a better position. Now that's on page 1. And the better position narrative continues on page 2. Brexit trade boost for Prime Minister. And it says that David Frost, the negotiator, says we are getting warmer. No more talk about fighting the EU. And it says EU deal next week. And there is a kind of diversionary piece about Dominic Cummings. On his clothing, he's wearing a Nike thingy. So this comes as Nike One or Nike One Dom. Only a very small item about the finance minister Rishi Sunak. But that's a negative one because his 1,000 £1,000 job saver scheme is in doubt. And there are 2 pages of kind of 2-page spread devoted to the woman who hit the celeb kind of platforms posing as Jordan. And posing is the literally kind of central word. Now she is reportedly saying, I have to padlock the fridge at night, says Katie Price about her son Harvey being obsessed and addicted to eating, which is proving to be serious danger to his health and safety. And they're running the same kind of propaganda for the vaccine, which the scum says the second vaccine 95% effective. And it says the Britain snaps up 5 million doses. And the headline is cheering Matt Hancock, Yabba Jabba 2. And they've got 2 pages on the castle that is going to apparently house the celebrity thing. Now, Chris Peckham, the environmental campaigner, has urged the BBC to act The television star retweeted a post by Labour Deputy Leader Angela Rayner that blasted sickening Tories. Now they're condemning the BBC for a retweet by Chris Peckham, which contained a retweet of a tweet of the Deputy Labour Party leader Angela Rayner calling the Conservatives sick. Well, that is not worthy of treatment as a news item, but that is the Murdoch scum. And there is a piece about 14-day isolation, not good for the nation. It's by Professor Carol Sikora. So Carol Sikora may sound like a woman's name, but it's a man. And we shall be talking about his kind of name, the origin, whether it's Greek or from another background. That will be clarified during the course of this edition, which is part 2 of the Khoodeelaar campaign, world exclusive Diagnosis of Fleet Street. Fleet Street meaning the likes of the scum, the Times, the Guardian. The Guardian we have already done in part 1 or part A already, but we shall cover the rest of the Guardian later. The Star, the Express, the Daily Mail, the Boris Graph, and the Financial Times, and the I newspaper. And there is this editorial, which is Rupert Murdoch telling Johnson to stand firm. And it says that Leavers, that is Brexiteers, would not forgive a prime minister who brought them so close only to surrender powers at the last moment. Nigel Farage is waiting to hoover up their votes in the millions. Now that is the Murdoch scum actually be time to come, because not only has the appearance of the pandemic changed all the key mathematics, but also the mathematics that have been kind of counted in favor of Joe Biden have also brought in something that is very different from what could have been the case if the counting had gone the other way. And as we have been saying for the last few days, Joe Biden has made a short statement, but the length of that statement is less important than the content of it. And the content is that the administration in America, the USA administration, fronted by Joe Biden, will not approve of any activities that undermine the Good Friday Agreement about Northern Ireland. And it is Northern Ireland and the Good Friday Agreement that has been, if not the biggest, one of the biggest worries for the Brexiteers. And that was also highlighted in that short intervention by Ed Miliband, who challenged Johnson to tell Parliament, to tell the public what he knew about Northern Ireland. And Miliband was kind of lauded because he got Johnson in a right corner there. Johnson couldn't answer. Now here is a 2-page spread on pages 12 and 13 given to Marcus Rashford, who's launched his book club to help kids. Now that is another first for the racist scum. This is the treatment of this particular individual as if he's a part of the normality, the ordinary kind of face, not a kind of marginalized face. It's a black boy, 23-year-old, is being treated as if he's normal, he's part of the normal kind of appearance. And so the scum is backing Boris Johnson on Brexit. And there is no evidence that there is any problem for Boris Johnson, because he's kind of portrayed in the scum today as achieving positive results in every direction, including that thing about the vaccine that has been ordered, apparently 5 million doses in a snap. Snap is a kind of over the top certificate to the smartness of the UK government. Snapped. It's not like dithering, which is what Boris Johnson has been condemned for being dithering, including last week's statements attributed to Dominic Cummings, that Boris Johnson is a ditherer, can't make decisions. He's a kind of indecisive. And Rachel Sylvester in the Times, on the same spot as Claire Forges yesterday's Times, this one is doing an open, brazen kind of promotion for Allegra Stratton, Kerry Simmons, and Munira Mirza. And this shameless promotion is being justified by Sylvester claiming that women are doing the better job, and they're bringing decisive kind of fervor into the behavior of the people in number 10 Downing Street. And there is a cartoon on the opposite kind of side, the Times cartoon, whoever is the cartoonist, I'm not looking at it now, but that cartoon shows Boris Johnson sat on a kind of stool or something, while Allegra Stratton is standing behind Kerry Simmons, who is assuring him that there will be maybe a week or maybe 2 weeks it will take to sort out the morass. That is the, what is it saying? A couple of weeks, yes. A couple of weeks is all we need. And this is a cartoon not by Brooks, but another cartoonist, resetting the government. And Kerry Simmons, accompanied by Allegra Stratton, who is behind her, is speaking halfway through in the, not on a stool, but in a kind of chair, sofa chair. And Johnson is kind of looking resigned and half dead and half alive, while Kerry Simmons is saying with a thumb up, left thumb up, saying a couple of weeks is all we need. That is the cartoon in full. And this guy, Hugo Rifkind, who is the son of the Rifkind who was the defense minister while John Major was prime minister. And this Rifkind was the anti-Muslim liar who held back British intervention, even when there were daily reports about the Bosnians being massacred and murdered by the Serbians in the early 1990s. So Rifkind, I mean, all these columnists on the Times are one way or the other connected with the people in government or people in the Conservative Party. For example, there is Corran. Now, the Corran is a son of Alan Corran. Like Alan Corran was a kind of BBC kind of person and probably had a column on the Evening Standard or Standard. And the Corran seniors, Alan Corran's daughter, Victoria Corran, is also given BBC platforms and others. So this is the diagnosis. Khoodeelaar campaign world exclusive diagnosis of Fleet Street. And it is bringing you exclusive insights into the connections between various names as columnists, etc. on the paper. Now, there is a column, as I said, by Rachel Sylvester, who is kind of updating on the propaganda for Allegra Stratton. It is not Kerry Simmons, it's Allegra Stratton who is doing the actual pushing so far on the evidence available so far. And the other column is by Melanie Phillips. Melanie Phillips has got a column on the Times today, and which she is using or she's abusing to attack Muslims and to promote those who oppose Muslims on religious grounds, not on the evidence of any wrongdoing by the Muslims, but on the ground of being just Muslims in religious faith kind of terms. And Melanie Phillips has been mentally, totally kind of racistly dedicated against Muslims for the past 20 years, if not longer. And she has been increasingly aggressive and increasingly in denial about the truth in society, across the world, and in the realms of kind of, if you like, discourse and discussions. And she is now installed as a columnist on the Murdoch-owned, Murdoch-controlled Times, not unconnected with the fact that she is a racist and she is a denier of the universal values and rights. Now, Melanie Phillips is not the only one on the Times, obviously, but she is one of the few kind of racist women, obviously white one, that have been given permanent spots by Sky News, by the BBC television, and other platforms. Not on the evidence of their or her or the other ones liberalizing internationalist, humanitarian, compassionate kind of outlook or attitude, but for the opposite reason. Because they are against compassion, against universality, and against the objectively verifiable evidence for any kind of comment that they make. And most of the comments they make not only introduce new aggravation to the prevailing atmosphere of racism and anti-Muslim hostility, but aggravate the whole thing, the whole kind of equation. No wonder that Melanie Phillips is a Brexiteer, because Brexit to her, and most of the gullibles too that kind of follow her and the likes of her, the Brexit means an end to opposition to racism, an end to the expansion of the mental borders into accepting and recognizing the whole world, the existence of the world, and to accepting the evidence of the experiences of millions of people, hundreds of millions of people across Africa and Asia, where the consequences, the bad consequences of racism, colonialism, imperialism, and Macaulay's kind of toxic, hateful, oppressive, imperialistic imposition of ideas about education have been having. So today is Tuesday, the 17th of November 2020. What are the things that happened in November? On the 10th of November, the Royal London Hospital in Stepney, London E1 in Whitechapel, kind of caused the overall comprehensive attacks by eviction from an address in New Road. The eviction program that Royal London Hospital had started in September 1987. And after 6 years of battle to stop that eviction, the targets of the eviction program were misled and lied to by the then Shoreditch County Court District Judge, Henrietta Bad Manners, and the complicit crooks in posts in the Shoreditch County Court at the time. And the conspiracy was aimed to benefit the crook and criminal liar Paul Varmin, also known as Paul Varma, also known as the accountant. That Varmin lied through his teeth, and that is the Varmin that had misled various parties involved with the kind of legal occupation and use of the property under eviction on the 10th of November. That was a Wednesday, 1993. Paul Barmin actually lied to a number of people, and he lied in order to get the property in New Road vacated by the people and parties that had been in that property since the 1960s, early 1960s. And in addition to being the center, being the home of the campaigns during the 70s and 80s, up to the day of the eviction of 10th of November 1992, that address had been the address used for campaigns of immediate kind of relevance to the immediate neighborhood and areas in Tower Hamlets, but also of worldwide application and benefit for millions, hundreds of millions of people. Now the question may arise as to how a program or a campaign or a series of programs or a series of campaigns that are claimed, as we are claiming here and as we have claimed before, to have benefited hundreds of millions of people. How can such a program, how can such a number of programs and campaigns lack even the amount of money that would have been needed to buy the property, not just rent it, but to buy the property at any price? Indeed, that question is legitimate, and that is one of the central questions that will be addressed extensively in extensive details So we are now moving on to the name Fluff, a cat called Fluff or Fluffy. Fluff or Fluffy looked like Fluffy because he had a lot of fluff, lot of fur. And he was a resident of the property that was targeted for eviction. And the experience of Fluff and Fluffy highlighted the serious environmental negligence by the local council, as well as the Royal London Hospital, as well as the degenerate builders and architects and the entirety of the culture of builders. I mean, Fluffy disappeared from his home one day, Tuesday, one afternoon. It was a Tuesday. And the reason Fluffy disappeared was to look for friends. And he couldn't get to friends because of the structure and the obstructions, etc. So he crossed the commercial road, very dangerous commercial road he crossed, and he went into the road next to the commercial road. The road used to be called the kind of chicken market or whatever. We shall come to the details later. And there, Fluffy found lots of other cats. And whenever he was approached by the person who brought him up, he would run away and hide. Because Fluffy knew that he was being missed and he was kind of targeted for rescue or returned home. That happened sometime in late 1992 or early 1993. So if you count from 1993, let's say, up to June 2006, how many years is it? 7 and 6, let's say 5.5. Just under 12 years, let's say. So it was 12 years that went by without any contact, without any kind of direct contact with cats. There were some, but there were never anything like the direct contacts. And the details of what happened in those contacts and during the lack of contacts will be elaborated on in a separate number of programs, except to say that every single cat, including Fluffy, there were 14 cats that were kind of attacked by the eviction.